Brody and the douche. I think if we make the sound effects ourselves, it's going to make it a lot more organic. It'll be like a radio show, but people get to watch us like the lead, and then you can do a little number of your stand-up comedy. We'll redo this show in a bit. Hello, everyone tuning in. This is Between the Streams. This is our live entertainment podcast where we talk about the topics of the day, including movies, TV releases, everything that's going on. We got a bunch of things that we're going to get to today, including some new Star Wars news, some pretty crazy stuff that may be happening with Star Wars, the expansion of the universe.
Stranger Things news.
Stranger Things. Yeah, which always, I will talk Stranger Things anytime. Fantastic Beasts. We've got some updates on that and a whole bunch of different things happening with Netflix. But we do have some important things to get to first. But I am Greg Nibbler.
I'm Ryan Juanita.
And the big story right now, this weekend, the movie that's premiering and getting some interesting reviews is Suicide Squad. So Suicide Squad actually just opened today, technically, right?
Yeah,
last night.
Midnight showings.
Yeah, people have gone out and seen it. The DC kind of answer to the Avengers-ish, kind of, or like the anti-Avengers.
I'm not really sure what you would call it. It's DC's turn to try to take a different angle on it.
Yeah,
and no surprises. It's, to me and to a lot of people, it is getting really bad reviews.
Really bad reviews. Yeah. That was totally my fault right there. It is getting really bad reviews. And
let's put it this way: it's getting reviews all over the place, and that's what's one of the hard things about Rotten Tomatoes. It's an aggregator. It just tells you most of the reviews are negative or most of the reviews are positive.
Yeah, they're not actually reviewing.
There are some reviews that are positive. Most of them are middling at best. And then there are some reviews that say things like, it's just bad, not fun bad, not, this is from Vanity Fair's Richard Lawson. It's, not fun bad, not redeemable bad, not the kind of bad that is the unfortunate result of artists honorably striving for something ambitious and falling short. Suicide Squad is just bad.
Wow. That is harsh.
But the interesting thing is, as with every other DC property, there are some that have come out in the recent DC expanded universe. Mm-hmm. It is going to do very well. It's going to be the number one movie to ever premiere in August. They're predicting.
Really?
Yeah. $140 million is what they're targeting right now.
But is that enough to just keep this going, though, just because people are going to see it, even though it's getting these terrible reviews? I mean, at some point, that's got to, I would think, come back and bite DC.
Well, that's the question that we have to ask, because...
Or can they just keep pumping it out?
That's
people are
the
gonna
question
go see
that
it?
I have. Like, so after Batman versus Superman, and by most accounts, including our own Rick Marshall, this one is a little bit better than Batman versus Superman. It's messy. It doesn't get... It's got some identity crisis issues, which we can talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
But it is a step up. He contends from Batman versus Superman, and I would have to imagine it is too, because... For me, Batman versus Superman just got so silly. The dialogue got so tangled and weird. And I think David Ayers, he's a good writer and director. He's known for Fury and a few other movies that are pretty strong and interesting. So, his sensibilities, I imagine, have helped this movie. But this movie had an identity crisis from the start.
Well, yeah, because they had a bunch of reshoots, didn't they? Even to try to.
We don't know how much they actually reshot. In fact, our reviewer Rick thinks that maybe they didn't reshoot as much. They may have even just added some jokes, like into the like dialogue afterwards that weren't even like said by the character during filming. But the jokes that. So let's just talk real quick about the identity crisis, and then we can get into the whole DC universe. Is it in trouble? Is it not in trouble?
All right.
The identity crisis was, first of all, it's a movie about all of these horrible, horrible villains doing horrible, horrible things. It's supposed to be very, very violent, yet it's PG-13.
Yeah, but see, how can you make that a light, loose,
right?
lighthearted comedy about a bunch of murderers?
But so then Deadpool came out, right? And Deadpool blew everybody away. They had no idea it was going to be so popular.
But Deadpool is that character.
What it's thought is that Suicide Squad wanted to capitalize on that, and so that may have accounted for the trailer.
Oh, that's good.
The trailer, the trailer which came out with all the jokes, and it looked really fun. And it also may have been the trailer also may have been a reaction to the bad press for Batman versus Superman. All the bad critics who said it was just this whole thing is just way too dark.
This is a lighthearted, fun romp for the summer. Yeah.
So there's that, and then they tried to they sort of were reactionary to the audience response to the trailer. Mm-hmm. So then they're like, oh, we need to make it funnier. It just seems like this movie, and we haven't seen it yet. So I can't make judgments, and I'm just going by Rick, who we trust his opinion as well as several other reviewers. Is that it just didn't know what it wanted to be in the end of it? Yeah. A lot of people said there's a lot of cool action in it too, and I'm gonna go see it just because I'm so curious now. It was the same thing with Batman versus Superman.
Right. I'll go see it. See it. I'm not going to see it this weekend. I'm not going to contribute to the $140 million for it. It doesn't draw me in that much.
Well, and if we've seen anything, if what we've seen from Batman versus Superman comes true, then we'll see a huge drop off from that number the following weekend.
Well, I think one of the telling things, throughout this, and just getting into some of the characters of Suicide Squad, is Rick Marshall at digitaltrends.com. Of course, you can go there and read the review. Talking about Jared Leto's Joker, which was one of the most anticipated things of this, is how do you follow up Heath Ledger as the Joker, or, the long line of Jack Nicholson and everybody else who's played the Joker. That's a tough... Heath Ledger's a really tough act to follow, but somebody's got to do it. And Jared Leto's a good actor, but his response on here on the website was, Leto's lukewarm Joker, Suicide Squad, is more sad than scary.
So and that's surprising to me because I had heard from other reviewers, that Leto and Margot Robbie were the standouts.
Mm-hmm. And Margot Robbie, I could see.
I think
she's pretty entertaining.
I think Robbie is still a standout. But yeah, Rick didn't like Leto's turn. And then the other part of it is that Leto doesn't do a lot in the movie. That's one thing we do know.
Yeah, and why make all this hype about that character? Because obviously the Joker.
Because that's how you sell enough tickets to make $140 million.
The Joker is always going to be the seminal, he's one of the ultimate villains of all time.
Yeah.
That is always a selling point when you have the Joker in there.
Right.
And to just not utilize him, even if, it's a strange turn of it, but somebody's got to be the Joker, like I said.
Well, I mean, you call this their Avengers. I'd say it's almost more like their Guardians of the Galaxy because nobody knows a lot of these characters. Yeah. And so they kind of needed something, I think, to propel it to the money that they were trying to make on it. And I think they also are using this film as sort of a stamp that's going to, bring Joker into the Batman series that they want to make because they want to make a lot of these movies. That Ben Affleck wants to direct his own Batman movie and on and on.
Well, Ben Affleck doesn't always get what he wants, but
but he does a lot.
Well,
of
he
the time.
does. Yeah, okay, that's true. What am I to say? Yeah,
but yeah, I'm interested to see my take on Leto because I think he's an interesting case study. He's a method actor. We were talking about how weird method actors are. I mean, and there's so much leading up to this movie. Again, it's PG-13. The trailers were lighthearted, yet we heard about on set that there were
people were
psychiatrists on set or
Leto
psychologists on set.
So that just sounds
And he
fake.
sent Margot Robbie a live rat, and he sent used condoms, but they weren't used. They were just opened condoms to some of the actors. Method acting is just weird. Can we just say that?
That just sounds like an HR issue.
I'm gonna call you Jared, dude. I'm not gonna call you Joker.
I mean, but he's getting paid a lot of money, so knock it off, Jared.
I wonder how much he made for this movie if he's only in it for 10 minutes or whatever.
But I bet he signed a deal though.
I'm
to
sure
play the Joker because they're not going to replace the Joker.
For
the next movies.
I guess So that's the bigger question that I want to ask, and maybe you guys can help. Chime in on this too. Does this mean DC's in trouble? I mean, we asked that again with Batman versus Superman. And, of course, this one is, by most accounts, a little bit better. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're on the upward turn. But how often can you make critically, maligned movies and still keep making money? I mean,
it works with
Transformers.
You're still making money.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of, and Transformers has another one that's going to be coming out.
And let's also say that not everybody agrees with this, and just like Batman versus Superman, not only do they not agree, they are vehemently upset about it. So upset about it that one superfan got together a petition to take down Rotten Tomatoes. He had 15,000 signatures at last check that Rotten Tomatoes should be shut down. I mean, that's the biggest, I'm going to take my ball and go home thing I've ever heard.
Well, and the thing is, Rotten Tomatoes they're just aggregating the reviews. Yeah. I don't like it. Don't like that review.
But I don't know. It's going to be interesting again. And I'll go back to what we said last week. Everything, even more so now, is on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman's the one thing that seems to stand
bring them
out.
sort of out of this doldrum of poor reviews.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll have to see how Wonder Woman does.
See where it shakes out, but
it's hard to have any faith in this franchise anymore. Again, I'm going to go see the movie, and I can't judge it till I see it. But a lot of reviewers that I respect a lot have.
Is it just because, do you think,
it.
and we'll move off of this here in a second and get on to some other topics too, because we've got a bunch of things coming up we're going to discuss. A whole lot of things happening on Netflix, but if you're just tuning in, we're talking about, Suicide Squad and the whole DC versus Marvel thing. Do you think the DC movies are failing just because Marvel has set the bar so high with such... I mean, their movies, Marvel really does knock it out of the park.
Well, it's hard to peg one thing. I think there's a lot of things. I think Zack Snyder, yeah, I think that's part of it. But getting to Marvel, I think there's also the point that Marvel doesn't try, although it's the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they don't try to make every movie the same kind of movie. And I think that's something that DC has fallen into, and now they're trying to get out of it. And I think Suicide Squad is a way of trying to get out of it because, by most accounts, it's totally different than the preceding movies, Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. But let's just take Man of Steel, for instance. That movie felt more Christopher Nolan than it did Christopher Nolan's Batman than it did Superman.
Sure.
And that was sort of a direct result of, the success that Nolan had with his franchise. But I think that's one of DC's big mistakes is trying to make this overall franchise all feel tonally one way. And that way seems to be Nolan's view of Batman.
Dark. Yeah.
Which is dark. So I think that's a problem because if you look at Marvel, every single movie, whether it be Thor or Iron Man or, any of the individuals, they're all shiny and fun in a certain Marvel-y way, but they also all have very different tones.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenneth Branagh directed Thor, the first one, and it doesn't feel anything like the first Iron Man to me. But yet when the Avengers come together, it feels like, this is all one universe, yet each movie can be individual.
Yeah.
And show off
each character because they're very rich characters you can get into.
Yeah, and Superman should have been bright, and he should have had more fun. He could still exist with Batman, and in fact, it would have made Batman versus Superman even better because it would have been two very different characters coming together.
Yeah, instead they're both just dark, brooding.
And the fanboy thing is always earnest Batman and earnest Superman and dark Batman. You know?
Yeah, brooding.
So
Batman.
I don't know. It's hard to peg one thing, but let's just. Marvel has it and DC doesn't when it comes to the critics.
Well,
but DC is still making hand over fist.
If they're still making the money, they're not going to stop making these. That's obvious. Yeah. And it's just whether they change it up from here. Well, let us know what you think, too, about Suicide Squad. If you've seen it, if you're excited about it, if you're about it, whatever it is that you think about that. We'd love to see your comments. If you're watching live on YouTube, go ahead and pop those in there. We've got more stuff to get to. We're going to get to some more Star Wars news, some breaking Star Wars, not breaking, but very new Star Wars news. Yeah,
kind of. It's been around, but it's an interesting development.
Definitely something that's happening with that, and some news on Stranger Things and Fantastic Beasts. But we do have some other movies that are premiering this weekend. If you want to see something besides Suicide Squad,
not very many. So we do our box office preview every week.
Yeah.
But as you'll notice, most movies got out of the way of Suicide Squad.
yeah, which is
because
well, if you're looking for something,
they didn't want to lose their money.
Well, it's smart. I mean, but if you're looking for something completely different, because not everybody's into superhero movies, there is Sunchoke, which premieres this weekend, starring somebody a lot of people would recognize.
Starring Sarah Hagen, who is Millie, the mathlete from Freaks and Geeks, and former Scream Queen Barbara Crampton.
Former Scream Queen Barbara
Say that
Crampton.
5 times fast.
Yeah, that is kind of a tough one. I was going to make fun of you for that, and then I'm like, no, I can't do it either.
I didn't mess it up.
Former Scream Queen Barbara Crampton.
But so this movie is very weird. It's supposed to be part horror movie, part psychological thriller. It's basically about a deranged young woman who has a sort of even more deranged nurse, it seems like. And the two of them sort of sparring, but it's from a first-time director, Bren Cresselman. It's his first big film, and let's also note that you can also watch this on VOD right now.
So you can get it ahead.
So you could go to the theater, or you could just grab it on Amazon.
All right, that says something right there. Also, I mean, I can tell you, watching the trailer for this, all I can think of is that it looks like a really bad
very
Lifetime.
violent. It's very sexual. It's like got a lot of weird things.
No,
about
to
it.
me, it looks like a very bad, like an R-rated Lifetime movie. That's what it looks like. The whole setup with it, like really bad transitions, and then the anger outbursts, like I'm not happy with this, which is a Lifetime movie trait, mixed with kind of like a bad horror movie. Like that's all I'm seeing with this. It's.
Yeah, there's just no like angry drunken husband or
no, that's going to be the surprise at the end. Yeah, it wasn't her all along.
All right, so a movie
and the mom was poisoning her. It wasn't the neighbor. That's what it's going to be.
Sorry, I interrupted you in your Lifetime breakdown, and I apologize.
I'm just
I didn't know you were still going there.
Yeah, I know. I'm just letting you know those are the twists at the end. Spoilers.
Another good movie coming out, which is going to be in select
theaters. But another
theaters.
thing about no, I'm just kidding.
It's going to be in select theaters, but it's also going to be on your Netflix screen. Is The Little Prince, which is I've been looking forward to this for a while. If you're into animation, this should be a really cool movie to check out.
And I am not really familiar with this until I realized we were going to talk about it. So maybe you can explain what's.
Well, I feel like this movie suffered from the fact that it's sort of hard to explain. But basically, what it is it is a take on the original novel, the 1943 novel, The Little Prince, but it's sort of a spinning of that story, and the way it spins the two stories together is really interesting. It uses computer animation alongside very interesting and sort of old school stop motion animation. So it's about a little girl who meets this Jeff Bridges character, who's this old pilot, and he tells her the original story of the Little Prince. Step by step as they become friends. She's a little girl whose mom is like far too serious, and she needs to learn how to be a kid, and he sort of is going to teach her that.
Gotcha.
But really, it's just a beautiful looking movie, especially when they switch between the two kinds of animation. It just looks like it's going to be interesting and different than a lot of things we've seen.
Visually, yeah.
Visually great.
Definitely looks entertaining. The story, I'll have to wait to see that part. But
yeah, it's a little bit hard to follow, and I think that may be why it had trouble, and Netflix snatched it up. But they're also putting it in theaters because they think it's going to be an Oscar contention for animated films. So
all right, there we go.
That's another choice for you.
One more thing too, however you're listening, whether it's live or via podcast, if you hear the sirens in the background, those are actual sirens outside, not dubbed sound effects underneath.
That's right.
Even though I'm anticipating putting in more sound effects into the show.
More sirens.
Right? More. I don't know. We'll
let's make this a grittier town.
Right. Yeah. There we go.
And one more movie.
The Christopher Nolan version of our show.
One more movie. Little Men with Greg Kinnear and Alfred Molina, who played Dr. Octopus. Maybe you'll remember him. He's a good actor.
Okay. Uh-huh.
It's about kids in New York, and it's about families, flawed parents situation. It's by Ira Sachs, who's like sort of becoming the king of New York indies.
Okay.
So this one is getting really good reviews. It's like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. So
all right.
That's sort of your other alternative.
Well, that's good then.
Yeah.
They don't want Rotten Tomatoes taken down, that's for sure.
No, probably not. Not that anybody's going to see their movie.
Well, moving on to something that is very anticipated for the sequel already, and the series just came out.
Yeah.
And you probably know what we're talking about is Stranger Things. We have news on Stranger Things 2, and we're not going to give any spoilers here. I mean,
spoiler-free news.
Yeah, it's spoiler-free. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see Stranger Things, or go see it. It's on your computer.
Go home and
see it wherever you are. Stop working after this show and then go watch Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So Stranger Things 2, it is obviously renewed. It's going to be happening.
Well, I don't think they've actually officially confirmed it, but I think it's all but official.
It would be.
I guess we said it. Yeah, maybe Netflix did confirm it.
I'm pretty sure they confirmed it. Yeah. But either way,
anyway,
it's happening.
It's happening. And the
bold prediction here: there will be Stranger Things.
And
2.
Matt Duffer did a pretty cool interview on IGN about it. And one thing we learned, spoiler-free news, is that it's going to be set a year ahead.
Yeah.
Because you have to.
Right. Because you have child
actors. He called
actors.
it the Harry Potter thing.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily Harry Potter was written that way. But yeah, you've got child actors, so they're already too old to play.
Right. Because they probably filmed this.
And they haven't even written it yet.
And this was probably filmed a year and a half ago.
Exactly.
And so now, by the time they film it.
Yeah, one of the actors, his voice has already dropped, Gaten Moderato, who plays Dustin.
He's the kid with no teeth, right?
I think so, yeah. He plays Dustin, yeah. So they're going to set it, I think they're going to set it a year later, and what else do we know? Taking into account all that's happened, they're going to bring in a few critical new characters, but it's going to be based around the same subset of people that we know, and based like on what's happened in between. There's probably going to be some flashbacks, I would imagine.
I would think so.
But
but also, a part of this, the creators, they said a 30-page Bible that explains the whole world that they're kind of using to reference. when they're doing this. They also said that the season 2 is going to be more like a sequel than another season.
Yeah,
is how they were explaining it.
Well, and if you watch it, this movie plays out a lot more like this series plays out a lot more like one big movie.
Yeah.
Than it does a series, and that's why it's super bingeable, which is Netflix fodder.
Really
also,
good.
Did you know that this series was, I think, 15 different networks passed on Stranger Things?
Yeah, that's just crazy.
They're talking about like what this means to Netflix. Like, of course, Netflix makes so much content. You could just say they're throwing everything at the wall, but they do seem to have a knack to grab series that other people don't see. The intrinsic beauty of them, and Netflix seems to find it.
Yeah, and understands their audience maybe a lot better, understands the market of what people are going for.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest homage porn show that's ever been created.
Well, it's everything 80s and 90s that's coming back. I mean, even MTV, VH1 is now MTV 90s or something like that. They just changed it, or VH1 Classics is now
they're going to show like Beavis and Butthead.
And Daria. And they're going for the market that I'm a part of.
Well, it's funny, and the Duffer Brothers were also talking about how everyone comes up to them and tells them exactly what they're, what homage they're making to which show and even like which scene. And he said, and it's funny because some of it is true, but a lot of it is just them being big movie geeks, and it just kind of comes out.
Okay.
I think some of the ET stuff they definitely cop to just grabbing it right out of. But a few people have like referenced movies they've never seen and said that's the exact scene from this movie. Like
you stole it.
I never saw that movie,
I don't know
bro.
what that is,
well, they're not even saying you stole it. They're like excited that
like,
they did the homage to it. But like, it's not. So it's an interesting mix between their love for all things Steven Spielberg and Stephen King.
Hey, it's great.
And
all right. Things. Well, let's see. Moving along here at you, and if you're watching live again, just to kind of reset, we're going to talk about Star Wars here in a minute. Some big news on that. But another thing that's getting a sequel, but this movie hasn't even been out yet,
right,
is Fantastic Beasts going along this Harry Potter line, and this is the spin-off of Harry Potter.
Right, and the exciting thing about this series, of course, is that J.K. Rowling has written it. It's written off her Bible, her sort of Silmarillion. So it's like she had to like craft this story out of nothing. It was, these are basically just like beasts that existed that she wrote about, and that was what Fantastic Beasts was.
That's probably fun for her, though.
Yeah, but it is fun. Now she gets a new story. For those who don't know, this movie is set before the Harry Potter series, and it's about Newt Scamander, played by Redmayne. And he is, basically searching for these beasts that got loose in New York from his magical suitcase.
Okay.
And using magic.
Honestly, that's probably enough for me. I'll go see it.
Yeah, and the second film is going to delve deeper into this world. It's going to look at what is called an increasingly dark time for the Wizarding World that's supposed to test allegiances of Scamander and all his friends. So I think the next film is going to show us where people start moving apart towards the Voldemort area and, from good to bad. So
which
that
is
should
pretty
be
cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
So this one premieres later this year, the first one, and then the second one's going to be in 2018. So already a sequel
and so
for Fantastic Beasts.
My girlfriend is so upset that they haven't that they're doing this, but they're not going back to Harry Potter's parents because she thinks that's where the magic is.
Well,
we've talked about that. Yeah, like Harry Potter's dad and his friends. Sirius and all of them were shapeshifters, and they were like the craziest magicians that had come around to the school at that point. So that is ripe to remake as well. But of course, we'll have to wait for Rowling to decide she wants to.
How many more billions she wants?
Yes, that's right.
She
doesn't need to do it.
Yeah,
let's put it that way.
All right. Before we get to the Star Wars news, maybe we should do our segment Between the Cracks.
Sure.
Which is take a step aside from that. So Between the Cracks is a segment where we find a television show or movie, generally like a series, but not necessarily, but something that we think is not getting enough attention, or maybe something you haven't seen before, you haven't heard about. And we always like to hear what yours are, too. If you're watching, go ahead and put that in there. What show do you think we should focus on that doesn't get enough attention on any other entertainment platform? But this one is one that Ryan has selected this week, and I have not seen it. So maybe you can tell us about it.
So this is called, it's pretty... A lot of people have seen it, but a lot of people haven't. It's right now you can watch it on Hulu, but it's on Comedy Central. It's Another Period, which is in itself a hilarious title.
Yes.
This is a show from comedian Natasha Leggero, and Ricky Lindome.
Leggero?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Leggero?
Leggero, I think is how you say it.
Leggero.
Leggero. I think it's an E.
Ricky Lindholm is the other one. Garfunkel and Oates. She was from that show.
Yes.
Which you may have seen.
Yes.
Basically what it is, it's Keeping Up with the Kardashians meets Downton Abbey.
Which is an interesting mashup.
Yeah, so they're like these terrible women, but it's set in early 20th century United States. They're super rich, and it's like basically in their house. Josh Ritter's in it. Jason Ritter's in it. It has just a great cast, and it's just freaking hilarious. Michael Ian Black is in it, who's amazing.
David Koechner.
Yeah, David Koechner, who plays Champ.
Champ Kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these guys, you'll probably even recognize them. It's an amazing cast, and it's just an amazing show. If you're not watching it, it's some of the most like ridiculous, subversive humor you'll ever see.
And this is the first season. Is the one that's out right now, right?
Both of them are out.
Both of them are out.
Well, the second is in progress, but you can watch it as it comes out on Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I will give it a shot based on this recommendation. I kind of passed on it. Originally, I never ended up watching it, but I will definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, it's there's nothing else like it on TV.
Okay, well, just the name alone, I can only imagine where it's going to go with that. So, another period. All right, let's get to some Star Wars news.
All right.
So there's a few things that are coming out. I mean, Rogue One. Do we want to talk about Rogue One first, or do you want to talk about Rogue One?
Talk about the Rogue One.
So. Rogue One obviously coming out later this year. The first spin-off movie, or what are they're calling it? A Star Wars.
It's an anthology movie.
Anthology movie.
Yes.
So
it's a Star Wars story.
A Star Wars story.
That's right.
Thank you. So Rogue One coming out later this year, and it's getting everybody seems to be very excited about it.
Yeah.
And this is going to be one every other year. Like next year will be episode. Gosh, what episode are they going to be on now?
8
will be next year.
Yeah.
But in between those years will be these side ones, as we all know. So Rogue One, so far it's been really cool to kind of see the world that they're crafting, and you get to see different aspects of the universe.
Yep.
And mainly I'm still excited about seeing stormtroopers on the beach. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the new thing that they did was, so we have an everything you need to know piece that's a roving piece we keep updating. And the latest information is we got new spaceships.
New spaceships.
Yeah.
And there are some pictures of those that I believe have come out. And yeah, there's some of the pictures right there.
Yeah, the new one that looks the coolest is the U-Wing fighter.
Yeah.
Based sort of around the X-Wing.
Yeah, there's the U-Wing, and I think this is actually part of the U-Wing.
Yeah, it has
series.
movable wings. It's a transporter and a dogfighter. And yeah, looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, so different.
Another great example of them just channeling the original franchise to great effect.
It's working. It's smart. It's absolutely working.
And then there's also a new TIE fighter called a TIE Striker, which was developed for combat in planetary atmospheres.
Okay.
So basically it's because there's a lot of like fighting
on the
down on the planets.
Yeah.
So they had to do that.
Which I like that. I like it when they show the different worlds, and different things like that.
And there's also a new tank that they sort of showed a little bit of a bigger glimpse of. We've already seen that in some of the preview images, but if you go to our website, you can look at a better shot of it. It's pretty interesting.
Digitaltrends.com. Go there and check it out. Now, the other big news is this, and judging, just the fact that it is Disney that owns everything, and what they've done with the Marvel franchise in they have the movie series, but then they also have all of their television series. It sounds like there's a possibility we could be getting a Star Wars TV show.
Live
action television show.
On ABC.
Based in the Star Wars world, which the ABC part, okay. But
yeah. Well, that's where they had Agents of Carter, and then they also still have,
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Sorry, yeah, Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever.
Yeah. And so this would be, a television series. There's no word on really when it would be set or how that's going to work.
We don't know much. We do know that, ABC Entertainment recently confirmed long-standing rumor that talks are underway.
Now, and I want to know if anybody else is excited about this. Do you want to see a Star Wars TV show, or is this just starting to water it down?
It's a little scary.
Way too much.
It's a little scary.
With Marvel, and I granted I don't watch the ABC versions. I do watch the Netflix series, and they've done a great job with those. But that's also a little different. You have so many characters that you can build individual shows on and just loosely tie them.
Each of which has its own backstory and comic book and all
that's
of that.
Already established.
Exactly.
Like Star Wars are going to be making this all up, and I'm not saying they can't do it.
Yeah.
It's possible they could knock it out of the park like that, but there's a whole lot. I think there's a lot more room for failure in having people just get disassociated with the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. Now, in 2005, George Lucas had plans for a show that was set in between Episode 3 and Episode 4, similar to the timing of Rogue One.
Right.
And I guess they had written around 50 episodes of it.
That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, and they were like ready to go, and they had like Battlestar Galactica showrunner Ronald D. Moore on board, and then all of a sudden everything got put on hold in 2010 due to budget restraints, supposedly.
Well,
but then again, it was also
Disney money.
Yeah, and it was also George Lucas's period in which
he wasn't very popular.
It wasn't going as well.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I'm a little scared about a Star Wars TV show.
I think, quite honestly, if Rogue One goes off successfully, which it's all signs point that it's going to, I think they're just going to start capitalizing on this and just going to the bank with the Star Wars stuff and just hitting it until people give up on it.
I will just say this. Disney may love money, but the reason Disney is so successful right now and has been under Bob Iger is that they know how to keep a franchise safe.
Yeah.
They don't mess up franchises these days. I haven't really seen one. So, I mean, they're careful about their proproperties.
Yeah.
That's why they purchased them.
Well,
and they've already made their money back on Lucasfilm.
We'll find out soon enough, I guess, whether or not this is going to happen.
Yeah, that's my pitch that it's all going to be okay.
I think you underestimate Disney's love of money, but we will find out.
That's hard to do.
Finally, there is one other thing that's happening this weekend that I've already forgotten about it, and we were going to talk about it. The Olympics. The Olympics are going on this weekend. Ryan has written a great article on ways you can watch it, at least through Comcast.
Yeah, well, I got to sit down with Comcast, and, there are multiple opinions out there about Comcast, but one thing you can't say is that they don't have an awesome plan for the Olympics if you're an X1 subscriber. Yeah. Basically, there's going to be 6,000 hours of Olympics on the X1 platform.
That is a lot.
Really accessible, including 4,500 to 5,000 hours of streams.
Man.
So it's going to be unlike any Olympics before as far as access. People are going to be able to see just about every major event at almost, any time. It's going to be on demand. And they also are throwing up a gold zone channel.
Yeah, which is kind of like red zone.
Yeah. That's such a great idea.
Yeah, where you can just switch to the finales or the ceremonies,
all the medal
ceremonies.
Heats. It's going to go all the medal heats and
that's great because that's all I want to watch anyway.
The problem, of course, is I don't have Comcast.
Yeah, and
it's too expensive.
Yeah,
but you have an X1, don't you?
I do. Yeah, because I complained to them over and over and over about the price of my bill, so I got that included.
So, are you going to watch the Olympics like crazy?
Yeah, I'll turn it on. Yeah, I'll watch some of it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'll watch the opening ceremony. I mean, I'm more I kind of want to watch it for what's going to go wrong.
Oh, you want to watch the crap show unfold?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the literal. Crap show.
Oh,
yeah, there we go. Yes, there we go. That kind of sums it up with the Zika virus worries. There's already today the security for the Olympic Stadium lost the key to one of the gates, so they had to break the locks to get that open.
Well, that's just fun.
There's athletes and tourists getting mugged, which I don't want to see somebody get mugged, but one of the tactics they're using is I'll just say it's a vomit tactic.
Vomit tactic.
Yeah, so one guy walks up to somebody, pretends to be drunk, and throws up on someone, and then they get upset, and then the other guy walks around and just takes all their bags.
Oh my God.
It's a whole team thing. Yeah, it's going to be happening. I'm sure that'll be maybe caught on the 6,000 hours of footage.
That's not very Olympic-y.
It's not very Olympic-y, but it's what's going to be going on.
I don't like that at all, Greg.
I'm going to watch it. It's going to...
Well, I personally am an Olympics fan, so I'm excited about this, but again, I'm going to have to be watching it on my HD antenna and just finding whatever NBC will serve up to me. But you can watch some of the stuff streaming on the NBC website, the NBC app, but it will cut you off after 30 minutes.
So pick and choose what you want to watch.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work long term. I don't know if you can get off and get back on, or
or some workaround
your
of that
IP that you were just on there, or how they're going to do that. But
all right, well,
if you're a cable fan.
It's good to be a cable fan.
Comcast owner, you're gonna have a big time at these Olympics.
Well, there we go. There's some news. So you can read Ryan's article, though, at digitaltrends.com, just like everything else that we've got going on there. So again, thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to the audio version of the show on, if you're listening that way, you already know this already, but you can on Stitcher and iTunes and a lot of different places, so you can take it on the go. We broadcast live, generally speaking, every Tuesday at every Friday at 2 p.m. Getting my shows mixed up there. Sometime.
We'll do
every
it.
Friday at 2 p.m. Where you can tune into this show live on YouTube. And yeah, let us know what you want us to talk about. If there's a specific show you want us to get to.
And I'm saying go see Suicide Squad because
go see Suicide Squad.
I mean, just to see what the whole crap show is about here.
Right. See the crap.
I mean,
crap show's your word of choice.
It's like a train wreck, even if it's bad, I want to see why.
Just like the Olympics.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next week with another episode.